to Boise Paramotors. Today's discussion will be whether or not you should fly with your reserve, your paramotor, and we're going to discuss a couple of characteristics of different reserves: steerable, non-steerable reserves, big reserves, small reserves. Cue the intro. So I flew both ways, with or without reserve, and there's two schools of thought, I guess. One is that if I fly high enough, I'm going to be able to recover my wing and I'm not going to need the reserve, and if I fly low, I'm not going to have time to open my reserve chute. The other school of thought is, having a reserve cannot hurt, so why not have it? Dead zone is really between 30 and 150 meters because above the ground, because if you have wing collapse and you're around 30 meters and you have a wing collapse, you won't be able to recover possibly your wing and have a safe landing. At 150 feet, if collapse is severe, you still don't have enough time, and the impact is much harder than off of 30 feet. So that's something to be aware of. What I'm saying is that altitude is basically your friend. So right here I have a reserve. It's a Beamer 3 steerable reserve. I decided to go with a steerable reserve because one thing is that if I need to deploy my reserve, I want to be able to decide where I'm going to land. I don't want to land in power poles, trees, and so forth. The price difference between steerable and non-steerable is probably $300-$500, and for me it was the price difference is really worth being able deciding where you're going to go. Now, whether you're going to deploy it or not, that's a big question. Lots of people say, I'll never deploy my reserve, so I'm not going to have one, or I had a reserve that wasn't non-steerable reserve, and that's fine. Just be aware that you're going to possibly land to the places that you might don't want to. Now, having a steerable reserve doesn't guarantee you're not going to get hurt during landing, but I think it'll increase your chances on landing the spot that you pick rather than whatever the winds pick for you. So, long story short, I decided to go with the reserve just because I believe that if I get into the situation high up and I have a reserve and I need to deploy it, I would rather have it than not. It's like owning a gun or a fire extinguisher. You should have it, but hope never to use it, right? One more thing, reserves, the bigger reserve is, the slower inflation, which means it's going to take you more time for that reserve to inflate and really slow down your fall. The smaller reserve, the faster inflation, however, the faster speed of descending. So it just depends what you like, what you want. I have a bigger reserve. I like to have time while if I deploy my reserve, to have time to pick the spot where I'm gonna go and to have more cushion or landing. So alright, we'll see you in the air.
EOS, baby! EOS! So as you can see, I'm trying to fly above 150 feet. And another thing is, I fly with my right hand on the throttle, and with the left hand I'm able, as you can see, my reserve is on the right hand, so I can deploy it with my free left hand in case of emergency. So the entire point is, in straight situations, isn't your workload. So make your workload easy. Because when it gets really stressful, and I was a couple of times in stressful situations in the helicopters, you want everything to be organized and everything to be accessible and everything to be easy for use, for you to use. So make sure that you have a free hand and you can deploy your reserve with a free hand, and you always know where that reserve is, where that handle is, if you need to pull it out, because it can be between life and death situation in a matter of seconds. So just ease yourself the workload and make sure in your mind you're going through the motion, that you know how to deploy your reserve. Because what is reserve good for if you don't know how to deploy it, or when you're stressed out you can't deploy it, you cannot deploy it. So just 2 cents. Anyways, another good thing to have is a knife that you can cut off your main parachute in case that your reserve deploys and your main is just being on the way. I talked to the guy who had over 6,000 jumps out of the plane with the parachutes, and he said you always want to cut your main off once your reserve deploys, because if you keep them both flying, they can be positioned sideways to your body. So let's say right now my main is on my left side and my reserve is on the right side, and I will be always crooked because one of those parachutes has a slower descent rate than the other one. They're never going to have the same. Now forward and back, if they're positioned forward and back, it's not that bad, because you're going to fall on your butt or on your nose, right? And depending on the rate of descent, that might not be as bad as falling sideways. So always carry a knife just in case you have to cut that reserve off. The higher you are, the better chance of your main wing recovering is, and the better chance of you deploying your reserve in case that you have to do it is. So fly high, my friends, and be safe. That's all for Boise Paramotors for today. Peace out.